Hey fellas, it's Jaffe. If you are listening to the podcast version, just a reminder, this is a raw expression, a raw recording, whatever, of the actual live show. We will not be editing it, or I will not be editing it. So you're about to hear about 10 seconds of silence, then you'll hear the intro music from our very own Alex Plox, and then after that we will jump right into the show. This, of course, will be time-coded, so you can skip what you want to skip, but I want to give you a heads up right at the beginning. If you're like, what in the goddamn Sam Hill cockadoodie is happening with my podcast? That's what's up. Here we go. Welcome to Gabbin' Games for February 21st, man. Goodness gracious, time flies. We are going to kick in right now. I appreciate you listening to the podcast. See you soon. Well, I'll tell you what, that is a powerful piece of music from our very own God of War Alex Plox. That's called Hadel Rain, off his new extended play album, Hadel Rain. It also has the song from Monarch, our very own Rob the Mod's brand new video game that he's working on right now. Well, welcome. Let me get a sip of the bubbly. We will begin the show, the Gabbin' Games for the 21st of February. It's ripping by, man. We are less than a month. Literally, we are less than a month from springtime. How is it going so fast? Is it just me because I'm getting older, or are you sitting there in your own little world going, Jaffe ain't wrong? Motherfucker ain't wrong. Shit's going really goddamn fast. It really is. Before you know, you ever think about that? You ever think about, you have the perception of waiting on something. You have the perception of waiting, when you go to a show, or you go to a movie, or you go to a theme park and you're waiting in line and suddenly you're there and you're like, oh, remember when we were waiting? Like, it just kind of feels like a memory, but before you know it, you're going to be there. Same thing with like your deathbed, right? I mean, before you know it, we'll all be on our deathbeds, God willing, or the random neurons firing in our brain that perceive God willing. And it'll just be like, oh, before you know it, you'll be there. You goddamn right you will. It seems like yesterday my kids were being born. It seems like yesterday I was riding in a goddamn limousine with Alex Stein to a GameStop to kick off the launch of God of War in 2005. And now here we are. Here we are. It goes so fast, fellas and Filettis. Hang tight. Take it in when you can. Listen, I want to address something real quick. Then we'll get right into the video game news. Welcome everybody, though. Obviously, the call-in channel is wide open. If you want to call and talk about what we talk about on today's stream, I will say that people have accused me today more than usual with clickbaiting. People are like, "Oh, what is this fucking clickbait title?" Hang on one moment. My boy has just walked in the room. We've started the stream. Would you like to be on the show or not today? We're talking about all kinds of things. We're talking about how Bloodborne potentially is an allegory for the trans process.
I don't know what Bloodborne.
And people are telling me it's clickbait. I don't do clickbait. I just happen to have things that are fascinating to talk about. What can I do for you?
I was wondering if Mom's coming over tonight, yes or no.
I've texted her, but I think she's with a client right now. But why don't you try to find out?
Okay.
All right.
Well, if you text her, she's with. Okay, then I'll just wait.
All right, I'll let you know when I know.
Okay.
All right, baby. There goes Calvin into the night. So listen, people are assuming that I'm clickbaiting. The title of this here at Gabbin' Games, and we'll get to this topic a little bit later, is Bloodborne is about the trans experience. Really? Look, I absolutely put up titles that I think are compelling and interesting and worth clicking on, but I don't lie. If it was just some bullshit theory, but it's a pretty interesting theory, and we're going to talk about that as it relates to a lot of things about video game design and metaphors and video games and all that good shit. But first, let's get into let me check with the chat. Let me get I still haven't had a drink of the Coke, and then let me see how you guys are doing. I'll chat with the chat for a couple minutes. I'll pick the most interesting chats. I think maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just randomly pick shit, and then we'll get on with the show. Hang on. Vile Divinity says, it feels like the hours go way faster than before. Even boring shit like work flies by. I mean, it is age. It has been, that's a relatively common occurrence and observation people make when they get older. Because the days are less monumental. There are still things where things occur and they dig in and they make a groove in your brain, but obviously they become less and less as you get older because most of what you experience is rote, is commonplace. But that's why they say time seems to speed up. I'm trying to think. I was thinking the other day something happened to me and I said, that's going to stick with me. Here I am 50 years old and I'm like, I'm still having things that stick with me for the rest of my goddamn life. Brian East, I would even go further than that. Brian East says, Bloodborne, like most Souls games, are so ambiguous it can essentially mean anything to anyone. Yeah, sure. But I'm not grasping at straws that way. The Larry says, Jaffe, I saw you in a video from 4 years ago. You looked pretty good back then. What happened? Wow, you're a kind soul. Well, I got older. I have the beard that makes me look incredibly old. But I'm too busy and lazy to shave it, and I don't really care. Too apathetic is what I should say. And I've probably put on 20 pounds since the pandemic started. So merge all those things together, and you got yourself a human male that only your mother would fuck, sir. Okay, listen. Yeah, SM says, I'm only 24, and I'm terrified at how quick my life is gone. It goes quick. Goes quick. Dennis, thank you for the first super chat of the day. I appreciate it. Now, I know good sir Dennis is calling in from Russia. He says, Jaffe, I've told you that you will remember Ludwig the Holy Blade for years from the moment you encounter him. I have absolutely, struggled with that boss in Bloodborne, the Old Hunters, and to the point that I may be giving up. I may be giving up at this point because I'm so into Cyberpunk. I don't want to burn myself out on it. And especially with Elden Ring coming out, which we'll talk about in a little bit. All right, let's get on. Let's get on with it. Although Peapod wants you to know Jaffe spent 2020 eating ungodly amounts of Taco Bell. That's kind of true. Trying to win an Xbox Series X. That's true too. That's why he looks like this. You goddamn right. You goddamn right. Okay. here we go. Let's kick off to some good news for everybody, even if you are one of these weirdo console warriors who only likes one console, which is remarkably stupid. Horizon Forbidden West. Now, again, you guys know good and well, we don't get the we don't get the sales until a month out in America, but in the UK they are still publishing boxed retail sales, and they become less relevant every month given that digital takes in the lion's share of sales these days. But that said, Horizon Forbidden West was comfortably, this is reporting by Game Industry Biz, the #1 game in UK box charts, and it just came out Friday. They say it's the second biggest PS5 launch so far, behind Miles Morales and right ahead of FIFA. It was cross-gen PS4, PS5. Here's some interesting stuff about this. To me anyway, 68% of box sales were PS5 with the remainder on the older PlayStation. Now, I let you guys know, I had a Sony source tell me several months back there was a lot of guessing about which version of Miles Morales had sold more. And this fella says to me, who's very much in a position to know, look, man, it was parity. PS4, PS5 was almost a wash in terms of which sold more. But now again, this is one weekend. This is box only. But I don't think it's unrealistic to assume that 68% of box sales isn't probably relatively locked in with what we're seeing on digital, or what we will see on digital. So the question then becomes, I've seen two things kind of rise out of this on the internet. I've seen one group saying, well, this is proof we can stop doing cross-gen shit because the PS4 shit isn't selling. Now, again, let's wait for digital, but assuming that's true, assuming 68% of digital was PS5 and only 22%, no, 32%, God damn it, Jaffies. Yeah, 32% was PS4. Maybe it's a good point. I mean, again, they're attributing the sale of Horizon as well as Miles Morales jumping back, I think, into the, what did they say? Miles Morales is back to number 12, 90% sales. Ratchet and Clank came back into the charts, number 20. Every time they put out new hardware, they fly off the shelves and the software goes back up. So I don't think that they're at a point where PlayStation is like, yeah, we've sold as many PS5s as we think we're gonna, and from now on people are buying cross-gen on PS5. I think that's pretty interesting that even with the limited hardware, they're still selling more of this game. My theory, and I'm going to put it out there, my theory is, and I haven't played it, I know some of you guys on my Discord are talking nonstop about this game, saying how great it is. I'm not disparaging it at all. But I will say let's just say a theory. A theory is that if you have a PS4 and you care about this game, you probably have your heart set on a PS5 and you're just going to wait. Now, I know the upgrade's only $10 and it's actually cheaper to buy it on PS4. Maybe people just didn't know that. Who the hell knows? Because you can basically save $10 if you buy a PS4 version and upgrade it. But regardless, there is kind of a theory in my brain that says, well, maybe this game is a visual showcase for the PS5. People are more interested in this game for the PS5 because of what it shows off the box can do. But the game itself, unlike Miles Morales, is really good and really workmanlike and really perfunctory, but there's nothing really about it outside of the amazing technology on display that is innovative or worth writing home about. Now, I don't know if that's true, but there's got to be a little truth in that not just me, but a number of people I've talked to online after I've expressed the fact that I'm not interested in Horizon, and they say, why? And I say, I don't know, it looks like more of the same. And they say, yeah, it kind of does. I'm going to hold off and buy it. But that's theory one. 68% of the box on PS5 would be option one. The other one, I'm trying to look at these because it's also talking about what the other stuff that sold this month. Sorry, my dog is barking in the back and it's distracting the fuck out of me. I'm going to have to put him down. Brian E. says, theory number one, Jaffe, I respectfully disagree. Ryan King says, well, I kind of agree. It's very samey. Y'all said let your wallet do the speaking, says Legends, and people's wallets say we love the Horizon series and we love physical disc. Well, you love the Horizon series. I think you can extrapolate from this because it was the number one game, at least in the UK. I don't think you can say you love physical disc. I think they're not saying 68% of the sales were physical disc. They're saying that the only sales they track are physical. And in that, so you don't have any data on that yet. And John Snow says, hey, Horizon 2 is the best open world game I've ever played. So yeah, I get you. I absolutely get you. A lot of people adore it. So anyway, that's theory one. 68% of the box sales with the remainder on the older PlayStation. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm always honest with you guys. I want to be totally fucking honest with you. I forgot theory two. I usually have a little set of notes right here. This is a live show, motherfuckers. I usually have a set of notes off to the right of my screen where I'm kind of like helping myself out. And I'm like, I don't fucking remember theory two. Maybe it'll come back to me. God damn, don't get old, kids. It means also that Pokemon Legends has dropped to number 2. Sales are down 52% week on week. That's, it's not a healthy plunge. Behind it, Cyberpunk drops their patch. Cyberpunk's interesting because Cyberpunk rose 271% in the UK and comes back into the top 100 at number 23. So we'll see if that suddenly climbs back up and starts doing major business. Everything else is kind of the usual suspects. We have Horizon number 1, Pokemon 2, Dying Light has dropped from 2 to 3. Mario Kart 8 is number 4. That motherfucker ain't going anywhere. I wonder if the announcement of like 40 new fucking tracks over the next 2 years has kicked off some excitement for that game. I've been playing it more. That's God's honest truth. FIFA's number 5. Animal Crossing, Horizons, Jesus Christ, Jaffe's number 6. Call of Duty Vanguard 7, Minecraft 8, 9 is Mario Party Superstars, and finally number 10, Just Dance. Remember, this is retail, so it makes sense you're going to see Just Dance still in the top 10, Mario Party still in the top 10. I don't think that's going to be reflective of the top 10 when we see the NPDs coming out. Aren't narrative-driven sequels supposed to be samey, says the Larry. Yeah, I mean, I'm not, again, everybody gets so sensitive. I'm not knocking Horizon. I'm just saying that for me, it just kind of feels like, I know what that is. I'm good. If you walked away from Horizon Zero Dawn and said, "Oh my God, I can't wait for more of that," absolutely. Then you're gonna love the fact the new one's pretty much what it is. Omar, no, it is not clickbait. We will talk about Bloodborne in a bit. I do not do clickbait, believe it or not. I know you think I do, but it's going to be an interesting conversation. I do want to say to some of our longtime members, Legends, thank you, buddy. He's been a member for 14 months. He says the Uncharted movie did $51 million over the weekend. You goddamn right it did. Everybody I have talked to, and I mean everybody I've talked to on the internet and IRL, says to me, hey, that movie was a lot of fun. That movie was kind of light and breezy. You know, it wasn't fucking, an Oscar winner, but it was a great deal of fun. And sort of in that, I think that's great. PlayStation Productions has their first solid hit. It's done over $100 million all over the world. It's not going to be a Marvel movie, but in America, it'll probably get to like $120 million. Whether they make a sequel or not, that's one of those hard ones. It's not like a movie comes out like The Eternals and you're like, yeah, that was a disappointment. Or it's not like a movie comes out like The Last Spider-Man and they say, okay, you goddamn right, we're making more. This is one of those things where it's like, well, it'd be nice to have a franchise and, we could build on the success of it. Or it could be like, that's the ceiling, folks. And this movie cost, I think they said it was a $120 million motion picture show. So they'll be in profit, I assume. I don't know how much the prints and advertising were, but I assume they'll make profit off of it. But it is that's one of those gray areas, whether you're going to get a sequel or not. I think, who the fuck knows? Sony Pictures doesn't have a lot of franchises to call their own. They have Jumanji, they have Spider-Man, which really isn't theirs, although technically or legally technically it is, as long as they'll keep making them. So maybe they're like, okay, let's push this as a franchise because we need to own some shit that's of value. But that's pretty cool. It did $51 million bucks. 4 months strong, Mocha Chocolate. Thank you, sir. I hope your show's going well. All is well for me, buddy. Thank you for being a Diet Soda Soldier for all this time. I very much appreciate it. Okay. Tom Holland is a good age to start Nathan Drake trilogy, says Louis. Same with Pattinson and Batman if that works out. I mean, that's been a lot of people's theories, but I think the real theory is, and this was a surprise to me, I've talked about this a couple times this week, Tom Holland is, to me, not a movie star. I mean, he is technically, but I don't think he has any kind of great screen presence outside of playing Peter Parker. Just like Tobey Maguire is great at Peter Parker, and he was great in the Cider House Rules, but it's not like I want to see, Tobey, god damn, my brain's going, fellas. Tobey Maguire, what did I call him? Tobey Maguire in the, god damn, really? Tobey Maguire, I don't want to see him in like a remake of Air Force One is my point. So we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, Tom Holland is in his mid-20s, Brian. He says, I doubt he'll look any more masculine. If you think of it as Tom Holland and Marky Mark doing indie, then you're pretty much golden. Take Drake and Sully out of the equation, says Brian. Yeah, I mean, I think for your average person who goes to the movies, who don't really have a lot of information about Uncharted, I think it's fine. Okay. Peapod says, did being a high-profile game dev help you get laid or hurt your chances at your peak? Well, it never hurt my chances. And to be perfectly honest, by the time I was a high-profile game dev, I was already married. So, so it kind of, I kind of had that one, as long as I wasn't an asshole, I had that one in the bag, you know what I'm saying? But I've never really seen any kind of connection between the amount of women or men, I suppose, who want to sleep with you and your cachet in the video game pecking order. Now, your wallet, okay, sure, maybe, but no one's fucking you because, I designed the arena level in Twisted Metal. It's like, well, I wasn't wet before, but I have to let you know, I am sopping at the moment, right? I mean, it doesn't work that way, sadly. Okay. To be a little fair on Tom Holland, says Brian East, check out Devil All the Time trailer. Holland actually sported a decent accent. I'm not saying the guy's not a good actor. I'm not saying he's not an appealing human being. I'm just saying I don't think he has star power. Let's move on. I want to talk about, I want to tread lightly because on this next topic really quickly, it's one more piece of Horizon news. So, because I haven't been given the okay. So let me just say this. Last week, we talked about the one of the directors of Horizon reaching out and saying that one of the key reasons we didn't crunch on Horizon was, or that we slipped the game, was we didn't want to crunch. And, my view on that is when I talked about it last week, I was just like, yeah, I don't believe that. I think that's PR spin and blah, blah, blah. Well, let me just say that someone that I have a great deal of trust in, and I'm not going to tell you who it is, but someone who I have every reason to believe pretty much everything that comes out of this human being's mouth is like, no, that was actually true. That one's true, Jaffe. And so let me just say that's good news. I mean, that's surprising. It's surprising to hear that there are a couple of studios at Sony that have reached out to me and explained to me the avoidance of crunch. In fact, there's one that's cited in this article. Insomniac Games CEO Ted Price recently spoke on Spider-Man, having changed its Dr. Octopus boss fight to accommodate for crunch, which would have also needed a lot of structural work to achieve in such a short time. So if this is actually becoming a trend where these studios are able to put out at least games that look and perform as amazing as these titles, that's, they should bottle that and sell it to all the other fucking game companies, because that's pretty good to see. I mean, again, here's what I'll tell you, though. Here's what I will tell you. When we won the Game of the Year, and we won like 10 awards at DICE for God Award 2005, I get the award and the show's over and I'm going to pee and I'm peeing in the bathroom, and coming up next to me is in the urinal is Kelly Flock, late great Kelly Flock, who used to run a bunch of Sony and all that stuff. I don't know where he was at the time, what studio. And he says congratulations, and I said, oh cool, thanks man. And he says, it's amazing what unlimited time and money can do, huh? And as Kelly was wont to do, he was taking the piss literally and figuratively. But, you know, it is a good point. When you have a lot of fucking money, it's a lot easier to be the good guy. But that said, though, that's pretty fucking good. That's pretty fucking good. I am very, very happy to hear that there are solves to it. And I hope sooner than later they share how they went about this. Zero Signal says, weird coincidence that they stop crunching and their games get buggier and buggier. Again, I haven't played Horizon. What I can tell you is that everyone who's played it tells me it's wonderful and it looks amazing. So are there bugs? Sure, but... And that bothers some people. I don't really care. Like, people were like, well, Jaffe, what about Ratchet? Ratchet had bugs? Yeah, Ratchet had bugs. Every game has bugs. I pointed it out when I made videos because it was surprising to see those kinds of sloppy bugs in Sony first-party games. But if Sony is like, yeah, well, live with it, motherfuckers. We're going to keep making best-in-breed games. They're going to look amazing. They're going to play amazing if you like these kind of games, but we're not going to crunch our teams as much. I can live with it. Not everybody can, but I think it's a risk that's worth taking. Rockstar probably has little to no crunch. Oh, Lord have mercy, controller. They are notorious for crunch. Just read some of the stories about the last Red Dead, man. It was a fucking crunch factory in that place, man. What was the hardest job in game development you had? I mean, it was always hard. I think the work was always challenging. I think when it became hard was when I started to really lose interest. And so depending on where we were in the game, it could have been anything from the one that stands out to me. This was hard. It wasn't hard, but it was so excruciating for a person like me with ADD. Where I'm sitting there on God of War 1 and we were trying to figure out how climbing worked. And I had shown videos of games and movies. I'm like, that was my contribution. But I was still kind of obligated to sit in this fucking meeting and listen to technical directors and technical artists talk about the minutia of how we're going to get rock climbing to work. And I wanted to fucking blow my fucking head off because I'm like, I'm so goddamn bored. So it depends on the day. Okay. Let's talk about Street Fighter a little bit. We rarely talk about Street Fighter on this here show, and I want to talk about a little bit of it today. Give me 1 second. I am not a Street Fighter fella. I don't have it in me. I don't have the certainly don't have the reflexes anymore, and I also just don't think I have the capacity or the interest to really understand the nuance of becoming good at a game like Street Fighter. I am much more of a Smash Bros, Brawlhalla, MK11. I'm like 20% smarter than just button mashing, but it's a good 70-80% button mashing. But so Street Fighter 6 is announced. They put out a little trailer. I don't know if it was pre-rendered or rendered live, but I'll play it while we're talking. I'll turn the volume down. And yet nothing happens in it. It doesn't show any gameplay. It just shows what's this guy's name? Ryu. Ryu and this new guy, is it Alex or I don't know what his fucking name is. And they're fighting whatever, or they're about to fight. Okay. And that's exciting. It's going to come out this year. They don't know if it's going to be exclusive to PS5. They don't know if it's going to... Well, Capcom knows, but we don't know if it's going to be arcade as well. Luke is the guy's name. There you go. So my guess is this would Well, okay, so this is an interesting question. So this is why I'm interested in this story for a couple of reasons. Jaffe says, the truth teller, do you think Street Fighter V is going multi-platinum or will it stay exclusive? We'll talk about that in just one brief moment. But yeah, so this is announced. People seem happy within reason that it's announced. I mean, there's not much to it. They did also announce a Capcom Fighting Collection today, which has like 10 lesser-known hits. My favorite in there is Super Puzzle Fighter 2, but they have Night Stalkers in there and some of the vampire fighting games in there. But the big news is, of course, the Street Fighter 6. Okay, so I just want to point out a couple of things, though. That's interesting. Well, the first thing is just minor, but it's funny. If you look at this is crazy. If you look at the logo, which some people were complaining about to begin with, going, this is a shitty fucking logo. This logo I think it's fair to say this is a touched up logo that you can get for clip art. This guy who is I think he's the art director over at Ars Technica, the creative director, graphic designer. He finds this. And he says, this is his Twitter, his name is Arich, or that's how he goes. Street Fighter 6 logo will cost you $80 on Adobe's stock site. I don't even know what to say. I knew it was generic, but I didn't realize it was this bad. They searched for SF on a stock logo and rounded a couple of corners and added the 6. I mean, it's not illegal. They bought it. They have the license to it, but he's not wrong if you go back and forth. That's a little weird. That's a little weird. I know it's Sony, and Street Fighter has beautiful logos. It's probably just placeholder. It's not like a big deal, but it is funny that a company as big as Capcom on the world stage, one of the biggest, probably like an A- intellectual property in video games, can't afford a better logo. But I'm sure Zaf says they'll change it before launch. Capcom is plagiarized. Well, this isn't plagiarization. They paid for it. I'm assuming if they used it, they gave them $80. That's kind of the right to do what they want with it at that point. Is it similar to the NFT logo as well? I don't know, Andre. I try to avoid most NFT talk these days. I've kind of gotten it out of my system of realizing there is no logic behind NFTs. It's just nonsense, or my brain's not big enough to understand it. Oh, Jorge says it's probably a placeholder. It's no doubt a placeholder. Right, it's not the first time they copied arts this sector. Remember Resident Evil? Yeah, there were actually textures in Resident Evil, was it 7 or Village, that you could go to an artist's site that did not work on the game and go, what the fuck, man? That's the exact texture they put in their fucking game. But anyway, whatever, that's minor. Here's what I thought was really interesting. There is an article on Game Informer, and the headline is Street Fighter 6 should go, is RE4. Street Fighter 6 should go free to play. And this is by John Carson. Not, if you're old like me, that Johnny Carson. He's dead. Here's what he says. I'm just going to read some of this point blank. I don't mean to just read you somebody else's articles, but he puts such a fine point on it that it makes a hell of a lot more sense than me trying to articulate and paraphrase. Here's what he says. Let me just start with this saying, I think this is a good fucking idea. Capcom is no stranger to live service games, he says, nor do they lack experience in seasonal content. He goes on to talk about Street Fighter V having plenty of both. Street Fighter has been running like a free-to-play service game for years, and I'd like to see the series lean harder into that model for this upcoming entry, at least for this upcoming entry. Okay. He talks about how Street Fighter V felt like a beta test for a future free-to-play system. He goes into a number of the systems that are clearly games as a service sort of inspired, even though that game was a retail game that sold DLC, and then you could also fight to earn, what did they call it, fight money or whatever. There was never any free-to-play in that game as far as I know, and it doesn't sound like it was based on this guy's article. He says it wasn't a perfect system with fight money being a grind to earn, but it did lay the groundwork for what could possibly be Street Fighter 6 if it went free-to-play. He says, what would be revolutionary for Street Fighter is a battle pass system. I know, he says, not every game needs a battle pass, but implementing one here would do huge things for the game. It would promote player retention, give people a reason to come back, incentivize sticking with it. We know what battle passes do. Right, okay. Street Fighter is a pretty big name in video games, but if you look at sales for the most recent entry, it falls far short of Mortal Kombat and Super Smash. And he's right about that. Street Fighter is really, I never thought I'd say this because I came up when I saw Street Fighter 1 in the arcades, and then Street Fighter 2 exploded, and it was one of the biggest things around. Street Fighter now is kind of, it's niche. I mean, it's a big brand, but it's niche. Compared to like Mortal Kombat 11, compared to Smash, it absolutely, it's very difficult for average people to get into this title. And so if you look at Mortal Kombat 11, I think, has done about 14 million copies, and Street Fighter 5 on PS4 and PC has done about 6 million copies. Okay, so there's no doubt they can make a living, they can make money off of it, but it's hard to push back. Now, the one thing I would say is maybe with such a product that is already got its fan base, and they are selling to a dedicated, already in love fan base. Maybe they will make more money at $70. I don't a pop, or $60 a pop, or whatever. But I think the free to play thing is pretty smart, especially given that you've got Riot just around the corner with, I guess they're calling it Project L. You have to have seen this, but it's a presumed free-to-play fighting game. I'll put it up on the screen while we're talking. This is what it looks like. It looks pretty fucking good. It's by the brothers, one of them who I think actually is the founder of EVO, which was a fighting game tournament. But they bought their company, and now they're basically doing a very Capcom-esque. If you know, it's looks pretty Capcom-y to me. It's 2D though, but fighting game. And we assume this is going to be free. And then you look at what Warner Brothers is doing. Warner Brothers is coming out with a free-to-play Smash Bros. Clone. Multiverses, I think is what it's called, with all their, you know, Batman, Superman, Bugs Bunny, all the Cartoon Network people. So I don't know. I don't know if there are any hardcore Street Fighter fans in the chat, but I will tell you that when I heard it, I thought it was a pretty fucking good idea. I mean, obviously, you know, I don't think anyone's going to be doing pay for power or any of that horse shit. Assuming they don't, I agree with this article. Another thing they mentioned in the article that I thought was pretty interesting and pretty smart is they said they could do what is it Valve who has Dota? That Dota does, which is a portion of the money brought in by the Battle Pass can and should go into a pool for the Capcom Pro Tour, or supporting a variety of local tournaments around the world. So, I mean, I think it's a pretty good idea. So, Deleted KD says, I'm a hardcore Street Fighter fan. Cool. So, what do you think about this idea? What do you think about if they go free to play? It allows them to do, you know, obviously. So going back to the guy's original question, if they go free to play, I don't think they're going to be going console exclusive at that point. I think they're going to be going all over the goddamn place. Niche franchises sell, fighting franchises, says Eddie T, like King of Fighters, Guilty Gear. Street Fighter is much more mainstream and doesn't need to go free to play. Well, I mean, I don't know if it needs to go free to play, but perhaps they could make a hell of a lot more fucking money, though. Nothing needs to go free to play necessarily. The things that need to go free to play never survive. It's like, oh, you know, Evolve, we shouldn't have launched it at $70, $60. Let's go free to play, and then it's really big for a month, and then it's dead again. So, you know, if you need to go free to play, you're in trouble. But I think going free to play is a way to bring that back up and bring more people in could be interesting. There would be too much backlash from the fighting game community, says Zaf. Well, I'm waiting for this guy. He says he's into it. Deleted says he's a hardcore Street Fighter fan. He says, I'd like more people to play it, so hell yeah. If Sony funds it like they did with 5, they would need it to be free to play. No, but they probably would push it. Sony's trying to get their service games. If Sony said, look, we're going to be free to play on PC, and we're going to be free to play on, obviously, PS4, PS5, and it's one of our service games, I think that's pretty fucking cool. I hope the gaming industry has learned their lesson, says Brian, on pay to win. Well, some companies are still built on that, but a lot of companies have been like, yeah, that's not flying for us. Yeah, here's the, this is coming out this year. This is Multiverses, if you're not watching your screen. This is the Warner Brothers game. And this is obviously a much more, you know, family-friendly, Brawlhalla-style Smash Bros. Game. Hopefully it'll be deep and accessible. The League of Legends guys bought this company that was making this game called Rising Thunder. And their whole thing was, you know, we want to still make it deep and strategic, but we want to make it more accessible. So if you suddenly start getting the channel filled with these accessible but deep fighting games that are free to play, I don't know. It definitely starts to be that if you're working on Street Fighter, you absolutely got to be thinking about this stuff. When a game is free to play, I never pay anything, and if the game pushes me to pay, I simply stop, says Akuma. Well, I mean, good, but you're not in the majority, right? I mean, let's take a fighting game I like. Like, I like Mortal Kombat 11. It's not that I don't like the Capcom fighting games. I wish I could understand them and play them well. because I love the licenses they have. I buy every Marvel game they have. I just can't do much with it except fight my kids. And I can barely hold my own there, and usually not even then. But so if you look at Mortal Kombat, I was more than happy to buy. I bought Rambo. I bought RoboCop. I bought Freddy Krueger when I played Injustice. I bought Batgirl. If Kano didn't come with it, but it was free, I'd buy Kano. So I appreciate, Akuma, that's your take, but your take is getting lesser and lesser the more the more time marches on. Deleted KD says the fighting game community is already conditioned to accept free-to-play model. Hell, we bought 4 versions of Street Fighter 2, 3 versions, but those aren't free-to-play games. Street Fighter 3, 2, and 4 are not free-to-play. I don't understand. Is there a rumor that Sony has locked down Street Fighter 6 for their Evo Sports? I don't know. I know, didn't Sony buy Evo, but I don't know. I haven't seen the rumor. I haven't spent too much time researching it, only about an hour of today's stuff. But in that research, I did not see that rumor. But, I mean, it's a good point. 616 says, look, and 616 is done over on his channel. If you haven't checked it out, you should. He's done a number of comprehensive history of series. There's a Resident Evil one, there's some wrestling ones, and yes, there's a Mortal Kombat one. He says, I feel like part of the Mortal Kombat's rise to what they are now, their peak popularity is due to how they inserted connected, growing storylines from game to game. I feel like Street Fighter is still just competitive, punchy, kicky. I mean, I don't know how much of it is the story specifically, but I do think there is a narrative around Mortal Kombat that if you buy Mortal Kombat 11 and you don't really play it competitively, or you don't go online, or you don't even play it same couch, you're still getting a robust product with really interesting characters and lore and cutscenes that obviously get played out in the movies and the animated movies and all that. It was funny, if you go back to this Street Fighter announcement, there was an article today talking, I mean, it had a lot to say about Ryu's feet. I think Kotaku did a whole article about his feet. I don't know if they have a fetish or what. I don't give a fuck. But what was interesting about it, like, this was their big picture. If you're listening, it's a big picture of Ryu's feet. So it's interesting because they're talking about, oh, well, this is weird because Ryu doesn't like, he's a barefoot guy and he likes to go barefoot. He says it builds character. And I'm like, where are they getting these stories from? And all of the stories in Street Fighter that they're pulling lore from are just like the little one-liners they say after they win a fight, right? So, I mean, I agree with 6, which is to say, you know, Mortal Kombat has so much more accessible, well-presented lore, and it's so cool. At least in the West. I don't know how I don't know if Mortal Kombat's a big deal in the Asian countries, but in the West, it really does kind of lock into that sort of fantasy, horror, quasi-religious kind of stuff, which I think is really popular. But I love it as well. Everyone's foots are weird, says Akuma. Okay. If Ryu's feet are a hidden boss. Oh, yeah. Devin says Quentin Tarantino with his foot fetish is creaming right now. Well, wait a minute. Well, Truth Teller says you are right. They bought Evo. It looks like it will stay exclusive to PlayStation. Why? Why in the world does them buying Evo have anything to do with Capcom staying exclusive on one platform? Jaffe, do you think Street Fighter will be on the Amico? Sure, absolutely. Launch day. Laugh out loud. Imagine a post-fight screen where Ryu yells out, "I love being barefoot." Apparently that's real. Somebody asked him and he says, oh, well, it builds character to walk the earth without any shoes. I don't fucking know. I hate shoes, says Rio. Yeah. Sector says, Jaffe, when I played God of War on PS2, it felt like playing a Mortal Kombat action game. Did you take inspiration? I mean, Mortal Kombat has been an inspiration since Twisted Metal, so I don't remember any active inspiration. The only thing I remember is there was a character in one of their games that was called Blind Kenshi, and I thought that design of Blind Kenshi was so cool that I remember trying to poach the artist who came up with Blind Kenshi. But other than that, there was not really any conscious thought of Mortal Kombat. But trust me, that game gets in deep, and it was definitely very clearly inspiring to Twisted Metal. Okay. But here's what I'll say, though. Zaf says Sony does have some kind of deal with Capcom. RE8 got a demo first. I'm sure they do. But if you are going to go free to play, which I haven't really heard any objections to, I know a couple of hardcore Street Fighting fans. I'm going to reach out to them and ask them what they think. A couple of the God of War, hell, Eric Williams, who's directing God of War Ragnarok, Derek Daniels, who I don't know what he's doing on it, if he's working on it, but he's instrumental in the DNA of the way God of War plays at a combat level. Both of those guys, I know they played competitive Street Fighter. And so I'd be curious what they think about a free-to-play version of the title. Afro Povic, it is not members-only chat. I just can't read every chat, and if you put one in, I didn't read it. I probably didn't see it. Okay, though. Let's move on. This is just some news, not a big deal. Just want to let you know this was released today. From Software says, hey, are you interested in Elden Ring? Well, good, fellas. I think you should be. I think you should be. They put out the global release timings for Elden Ring. It's a little weird that the PC gets it 6 hours earlier, but whatever. I have no intention of buying it on PC. I'm going to be buying it on PlayStation 5. Because that's what I'm playing a lot of right now between Bloodborne and Cyberpunk, and B, because I want to see what they do with the haptics, and C, because that's where most people on the stream are going to be getting it, and I plan on doing co-op from time to time with Elden Ring. But in California, you'll be able to get it Thursday night at 9 o'clock, the 24th. If you want to buy it on PC in California, get it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. On the East Coast, that'll put you at 6 o'clock at night to get the PC version, midnight to get the console version. You can preload it 48 hours in advance on Steam and PlayStation, but you can preload it right now if you buy it on Xbox. So there you go. The NVIDIA leak listed Street Fighter V listed for Xbox. 5 or the new one? Since PC is getting it first, does that confirm the PC master race theory, says Bacon? PC, there's no theory. There's absolutely no theory. PC is the master race. I mean, I have a PC. I have let me jump ahead a couple of stories and tell you, here's one of the reasons that PC is easily the master race. And it doesn't mean consoles are not amazing. But at this point, given all the console games other than Nintendo end up anyway on the goddamn cockadoodie PC, why would you question it? It's the variety of games that one can play on a PC is just bigger and more varied. It's not just the main, it's amazing how many times I've had people on this very stream either call in or write in and say, oh, creativity is dead. It's all these big budget games and it's making people afraid to take risk. And I'm like, you don't sound like you play on the PC. They're like, no, I'm a PlayStation gamer. No, I'm an Xbox gamer. Even though those games have a rich library, as does the Switch, of indie games, they're just not on their fucking radar. But PC games, man, let me tell you, hang on. If Eric Williams is directing Ragnarok, says Eric, does it mean the combat will be deeper? I have no idea. I never saw Eric on the God of Wars I was involved with pushing for, like, he seemed bought in on the idea of we want to mainstream it. He could have made Devil May Cry. Corey, and Derek Daniels could have given Dante a run for their money. Devil May Cry a run for its money. Absolutely. I couldn't have. I didn't know anything about that world, but they could have. Absolutely. But at the time, I know he was definitely bought in, and it's hard to argue with success in terms of the sales. I know they went a little deeper on the new God of War, so I couldn't tell you. Now with Bloodborne being what it is, and Souls being what it is, and if Elden Ring is the big hit people expect it to be, maybe the page has been turned, and that's actually expected. Is sort of a deeper suite of moves and whatnot, but I don't know. Akuma says, imagine claiming PC Master Race and waiting years to play console games at the end of the day. I don't have to imagine it. I just did it. It was fun. It was delightful. I felt a little tingling in my nether regions. But I'm not, again, all I'm trying to, here's where I'm going with this. Steam Next Fest was announced. It's happening now. It goes until the 28th. So you have all this weekend. I'll be putting a video together. If you don't know what Steam Next Fest is, let me show you why gaming on PC. I'm not saying don't have consoles. I have the consoles. I'm very fortunate that I can afford pretty much whatever I want to buy when it comes to the video games. Okay, I'm not. I get it. And if you like those kind of games more, I get that would be your poison, or your whatever, your choice. But for me, as somebody who loves design, loves the art form, loves the medium, when you look at something like itch.io, Steam, individual games like Red Candle Games website, where you can only play Devotion if you buy it from their website on PC. And, I'm not a tech guy, so I don't have the most blazing machine, but you don't have to worry really about, oh, this generation, look, we have ray tracing. It's like, big deal. That shit's always, every year you're getting something new on your fucking PC, makes it feel. But there's hundreds of demos that you can play over the next week in every fucking category, in every fucking genre. And it's just like, you're not going to get, maybe you should. I would love to see Sony and Xbox stores go, you know what, we're going to start doing more of this kind of stuff. But all of these games, look, you've got 300 action games, 300 adventure games, 200 casual, 175 RPGs, on and on and on to play. And just, it's like going to E3 on your computer back in the day when E3 actually you could get to a monitor without waiting, 6 fucking hours. So I do think PC's a master race. But what I will tell you about this is if there's anything on here you want to see or want my feedback on, I'll be doing a video at various times throughout the week. I'm going to pick like 30 of these and I'm going to play them to completion, or if I can't beat it, that'll be part of the review. And I'm going to do like 30-second to 60-second reviews all in one video of those games. So if there's anyone that you're like, dude, this one's awesome, you got to play this one, hit me up on Discord, hit me up on Twitter, and I'll see if there's a desire for more people for that, and I'll play it. Owen says, Jaffe, I can't play video games without being baked out of my head. Do you have this problem? No, I can't really play video games stoned. I can play them and laugh at how bad I'm playing them. But when I get stoned, I get stoned. So, no, I'm just kind of like, whoa, I get stuck in the, no. The answer is no. There's plenty of videos that show me playing poorly. Jiva says, how many are good, though? Yeah, well, that's, how many are bad? Too many. That's just such a dumb, no offense, sir, that's a dumb view. That's a dumb view. That's anything. The more you open up the floodgates to content, the more you're going to have to do a little work, even if that work is just going online and asking, hey, what are the best indie games right now on Steam, to find good stuff. Okay, there's truth there. But and if you only game in a certain way, if you're one of these people, which there's a lot of you, which there's nothing good or bad about it, there's a lot of this type of gamer who's like, dude, I have kids, I have a job, I have a wife, I like to work out, I like to do this. I get like 6 hours a week to game. I like to come home and know that I'm playing the latest and greatest on PlayStation or Xbox or Nintendo. It's got the 90 plus Metacritic. That's all I have time for. I would agree. I would 100% agree. That makes a great deal of sense. But I'm saying that if you are into the medium, if you're into the art form, even a bad game, even a game you hate, there's so much to learn from. Even just like, okay, I don't know what this is. It says no reloading, but let's assume it's a game where you don't reload, obviously, Jaffe. And it's a game that's terrible. But, as somebody who has designed games and talks about games and loves games, it's like, oh, remember that? We would always do that when we were working on games. Like, there was this one weird game that did this. It's like, oh, shit. And the game was a flop. But there was a mechanic in there that we were like, that makes a great deal of fucking sense. We should look at that game and see if we can take inspiration from that. So, I think it depends on the kind of gamer that you are. But if you're into this kind of stuff, the Steam Next Fest is on. It's happening for the next week, and I will be playing a bunch of this stuff. Autopsy Simulator, Mutant Mo says, is on here. Yeah, I haven't really gone through the list yet. But like I've said numerous times, this very much reminds me of being at E3 back in the day. It's the digital version of being at E3. Back in the day, there was so much new stuff to see. Now it's very different. Now it's dead for the most part. I'm wondering, says Eric, what a guy with his background could contribute by being the director instead of the combat designer. It's more combat nuance. Oh, you're asking about Eric. Well, Eric's not just that. I mean, Eric has a whole life of work and being a fan and being a human that has put him in the position for Sony to say, you should direct God of War Ragnarok. So, he's not a one-trick pony. I was pretty good at contributing to puzzle design on God of War 1, but I was not good at, my combat idea was the thematic of it and the inspiration of it. But as I've said many, many times, I would have been fine if the combat would have felt better than Zelda and Medieval, but it would have been as deep as those games. Elber Galarga, come on now. What's with these names, fellas? That's my real name. Fuck you, asshole. Have you seen that Elden Ring is really buggy? No, I have not seen that. And I don't pre-order games. I've never understood the value of pre-ordering. Every now and then there might be a tchotchke you want, but whatever. And I don't care about shit like that. So, I'll certainly wait for the reviews. I think the embargoes are up Wednesday. And if the reviews come out and they're saying it's a buggy mess, then I'll wait. If the reviews come out and it's like buggy, like Horizon's buggy, I'll get it day one because I don't care if there's some clipping and, some weird shit here and there. But, Legend says on PC you got to upgrade parts and tune software to get the most out of it, or you'll be paying a PS3 game on a PS2 and say why my game doesn't look well. Yeah, but again, if your main goal is visual fidelity and oh my god, my game looks blazingly cool, then yeah, you're right. You probably need to jump through a few hoops to get that working. Getting games working on PC now, though, is so much easier than it's ever been. But that's not what I'm saying. The reason I think PC is master race is because the variety, is because the sheer volume of content that is out there for it. That's what impresses me. It's got nothing to do with the visuals, but for many it does. I get it. Who's playing Elden Ring to determine how buggy it is, says Brian East. I never saw any bugs. In the beta, the current release is improved. Plus, I've never seen any of that in the previews that people have talked about. But hey, I don't know. I mean, who cares? If it is, it is, and they'll fix it eventually and buy it later. I'm loving the fuck out of Cyberpunk. I can't stop playing Cyberpunk, but I waited. Stage Clear, that's nice to hear, buddy. He says, I just want to say thanks, Jaffe, for doing what you do. Girlfriend is away for 3 weeks, and I appreciate you keeping me entertained as always. I love hearing how people consume the show. I love it when people tell me, hey, that kept me company. I'm cooking dinner for my kids, somebody said recently, and I like having this on when I cook dinner. I just think that's the neatest part, or one of the neatest parts of this medium, and I appreciate you saying that. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here. Spasbo says, getting into PC gaming is way more expensive than... Oh, yeah. There's no doubt. It is an elitist... it's not a rich man's game. PCs aren't fucking buying Ferraris. But, yeah, you're right. I mean, you absolutely have to take that into account. Okay. Rocker Matt says, I wish I could secure a PS5. Sony needs to step up their shit. It's much easier to get a Series X. I'll have to settle for Elden Ring on PS4 Pro for the time being. Rocker Matt, I don't know. It's an interesting question that I don't have any data on. I know that you're absolutely right that it's easier to get an X, but X is struggling as well. My question is it a question of stepping up their game? Or, I mean, I haven't really thought to ponder the question of why does Xbox seem to be able to get more out there more frequently than PS5s? Because they both sell almost immediately. I don't think it's like Sony's lazy. I don't know if it's that Xbox has certain deals with chip manufacturers, but I mean, it's not like they're sitting around like, hey, what do you want to do today? You want to make some PS5s? Or you want to go watch another movie? Let's go to the fucking movies. So I don't know. It's an interesting point, though. Greg says, Jaffe, I watch you every night after work while I smoke a joint. I appreciate that, sir. I really love hearing that. All right. Cyberpunk says truth is a masterpiece. You can bash me all you want. I stand in my position. I don't know if it's a masterpiece. I don't really like that word any more than the word genius. I think it gets tossed around way too much. But I can tell you I love it and I'm addicted to it. It's fucking great. Afro says, I have 3 PS5s I'm trying to sell at retail price and no one seems interested. Well, there you go, fellas. Hit up Afro Povic. He's got some PS5s for you. If they're still brand new in the box, I'd consider taking them up on his offer. Okay. Yeah, Vile Divinity says, I think PS5s just have more demand, so most of them get got by scalpers. Could be. All right, let's move on. Halo. Look, I loved Halo Infinite. I thought it was great. I'm actually kind of starting to get a little bit itch to jump back into the... I'm getting an itch to jump back into the multiplayer, and I kind of burnt out on that. But the campaign I finished, you guys know me, I don't finish fucking games. I finished the fuck out of that game. I loved it. And so, and I thought the trailer for the live-action Halo show looked pretty good. It had some cheesy shots, but, I'm kind of on the fence with it. And given the fact that my take on Uncharted, my batting average is shit right now for judging what a video game property is going to reflect in the actual movie or TV series. Because I looked at Uncharted and I said, this is going to be a dog. And that has not played out. And I didn't mean it to be mean to it. I was always saying, hey, maybe the next trailer. But I never thought that movie looked good. I thought it looked, at an Assassin's Creed movie level. But everyone who's seen it says it's great. So take what I'm about to say at a grain of salt. I don't know Halo that well, but I'm in the process of falling in great like with it because of Halo Infinite. I think the trailer looks pretty good. So I don't know how sacrilegious this is, but they're saying the Halo showrunner, this was on IGN's Fan Fest that's going on this week or last week. Ryan McCaffrey was interviewing the showrunner, the cast, and he says, hey, are we going to see what Master Chief looks like without the helmet? And the head of transmedia, Kiki Wolfkill, I'll never get over that that's her actual name. I always thought when I first heard about her, that was like her screen name for like esports. But no, that's her name, Kiki Wolfkill, which is fucking awesome. Kiki Wolfkill confirmed Master Chief's face will be shown. She explains it's a storytelling. This is the article in Game Informer. She explains it's a storytelling necessity by saying, quote, we set out to tell a character story and a personal story, and once they got into what the story was, it became clear you really needed to see the person in the armor and under the helmet, so you will. And she knows, she goes on to say, what's up?
Have you fed him?
I have not fed him tonight. She goes on to say, we absolutely respect both sides of the fence, those who want to see his face and those who don't, but for the nature of the story, it felt important to connect with Chief in a different way. There's really kind of two things going on here that I can see. The first one is either they're not very good. Don't get me wrong, I get that it's hard, but I get also that when, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni and Robert Rodriguez get together, they made it work brilliantly with Mandalorian. Book of Boba Fett, where you see the face and you don't, like 50-50, I enjoyed. A lot of people didn't. I enjoyed it. But Mandalorian, the connection between Grogu and a fucking faceless helmet works, okay? So it may be that they're not just not very good. Or it may be that they're like, yeah, but that's not the story we're telling and it's important. I have no fucking idea. The thing we don't know is it going to be like you see his face briefly in a reflection, or he takes his helmet off once in order to save someone's life, kind of like what the Mandalorian did? Or is it going to be, I put my helmet on to go into battle like in the Marvel movies with Spider-Man, but 60% of the time he hits the little button on his neck and he's got the body costume, but the head thing is gone? I have no idea. Yeah, I know it won't be canon, but who cares? I mean, that is, I want to, canon has become this thing when I was a kid, maybe because there wasn't so many variants of, you got a Star Wars, it was a Star Wars. No one questioned if it was canon. It was just Star Wars. But so canon seems to be a thing like, we can rest easy. It's not canon. Well, it'll be canon if it works. If it does, they'll take what they like from it and that'll be in the games. And the stuff they don't like, they'll ignore. Who cares? Especially when it comes to selling it to new viewers unfamiliar with the series, says Rocker Matt. Yeah, I mean, there's absolutely no doubt the traditional wisdom. If you're sitting in an executive suite and it's like, what about the face? We got to see the actor's face. You can't connect with this helmet. That's the traditional wisdom. And I understand it, and I get to a degree it's correct. But it doesn't have to be correct. And so I think, it's possible, and we've seen it. We saw it with The Mandalorian. Henry says, I've always felt you can pretend you're underneath Master Chief's mask. I've seen that. I've seen this theory or this view several times today. If you're a guy, do we know if Master Chief is a man? Just curious. I think we know he's a man. He was a boy raised to be this fucking soldier, right? That was the whole idea. But I have seen the argument, or not the argument, but the idea has been floated several times I've seen today where people say, I don't like seeing his face because you don't know. Is he a black guy? Is he a Mexican guy? Is he a Asian guy? Is he a Caucasian guy? What, is he an alien? We know he's probably not an alien, but, and I get that. I get there's some value to keeping that mysterious, but, there you go. I get why a TV show wants to show his face as Zaf, but it takes a great actor to show expression while being faceless. Several actors have done that. Yeah, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. Eddie says the point of Master Chief is he's the player. That's why his initial name was Husk in the Macworld build. I thought they called him Cyborg in the original when they were designing him. The Cyborg is what they called him, but I hadn't seen Husk. Brian E. says, what would be really hilarious to me is if the trailer was misdirection and you go through the whole show in first person like Hardcore Henry. That would be amazing. That would be amazing. CR3D says, more importantly, does it matter what ethnicity Master Chief is? Yes, to them it does. To them it does. To the people who have mentioned that. Look, I mean, I'm not going to get into that with you, man. I know you're a very Republican fella. You're a very conservative fella. I don't know if you're white or not, but that usually not always, usually comes from a white male perspective. A white, straight, cisgender male perspective is usually where that comes from. Because that's what I am too. I'm assuming that's what you are. And we get representation all up and down the goddamn spectrum. But, if you're not, then, I see the value. True Teller says, rumors say he's a black guy. Well, we know he's not a black guy. We know exactly what he looks like because we know the actor they hired to use him, to do it. Is Cortana blue, says Jeeves. I think Cortana will absolutely be blue in the final mix. I think part of the story is her becoming blue. There's no way they're not going to make her blue. That's just stupid. I mean, it's possible, but it's not. It doesn't make any sense. CR3D says, Jaffe, what are you talking about? I'm saying his ethnicity doesn't matter. It should never be known. Right, and what I'm saying is to the people who were talking today about this topic, they like the fact that it wasn't known because they could imagine themselves in the suit or people like them in the suit. I'm not saying they should reveal what his ethnicity is. I'm saying that the minute you take the mask off, for people who take that as one of the appealing factors of Master Chief, that goes away. I'm not saying they're going to tell you what he is. That doesn't mean anything anymore. Not conservative Jaffe. I'm more in the vein of Bill Maher. Bill Maher, I've been watching Bill Maher since Politically Incorrect, or what's the first one he did? Politically Incorrect. Now he's got, what's his HBO show? I always get it mixed up. But I've been watching him since his ABC show. I like Bill Maher, but Bill Maher these days is hard to kind of pin down, which I'm sure he likes it that way, because he's kind of evolved his thinking in the last couple of years, and it's really difficult to know what he thinks on a lot of things. Jaffe says, Rocker Matt, I was saying I hope they give you input on Twisted Metal series to make something like that work in the medium without coming out fast and furious. It deserves to be respected. You know, I mean, look, they're a great pedigree. Let's just say they don't fucking need my help. And so, you know, real time with Bill Maher, right? I mean, I'd love to be involved as much. What I told them is what I'll tell you. If you need me, I'm there. But these are the guys that worked on Deadpool, that worked on Zombieland. They're good. They got Howard Mackey in it. There's some executive producers that I'm still confused whether I'm allowed to name, so I won't. They're good. But yeah, of course, the minute they call, I'm there if they want my help. Absolutely. Okay. I just want to talk very briefly about this. Then we will move on to the Bloodborne story, which is the story of the day. But this is good news. We got some good news today. We got some good news about Horizon sales figures. We got some new Street Fighter news. People are excited about that. We know when we're going to be able to download early Elden Ring. It's good people. It's a good day. Listen to this. Epic Games will offer full-time employment to many of its U.S. quality assurance testers. Now, I have said, and I continue to say, QA is incredibly important. You can't do the work without them, but they're the most easily replaceable people on the team. I started in QA. I started in QA as a full-time employee of Sony Music. I got benefits. I got good pay. For me, I'd never thought I would make that. I got $20,000 a year was my starting salary. And my mind was fucking blown. I'm like, I get to make $20,000 a fucking year, and I get to play all these video games? It was a great job. I didn't do it that long, but it was a great fucking job. So I think this is great. I mean, I've promoted numerous people out of QA. That's where great future producers and great future designers can be found. And I think the fact that they're saying, hey, look, we're having several hundred of you are no longer going to have to worry about your own insurance. You're no longer have to worry about you can only work for 8 months straight. Then legally you have to take 3 months off and then you're on your own and then hope we bring you back. You're one of the gang. You get benefits and you get to go to the parties and you get a sense of stability. I think that's fucking great. It's certainly, and you know, a lot of these companies have the money to do it. And I don't know why Epic has decided to do it. I'm kind of on a maybe the universe isn't so negative view, given that I've heard, like I started this stream off talking about how Horizon crunch, I was corrected by someone in the know that said that we didn't crunch in order, or we missed our schedule date, so we didn't have to crunch, that ended up being true. So I'm in a headspace of, hey, maybe the world isn't all so greedy. Maybe it's not all capitalism crushing everything, okay? So, look, this is great. I don't know what's behind Epic's. Maybe they're just like, the writing's on the wall. If we don't do this, they're going to unionize. Maybe it's that. Who cares, though? It's great news. I'd love to see Sony. Sony has hundreds of testers that are all contract workers. I'd love to see a large portion of tests around the world, or around America at least. Well, around the world. It's not local. I was going to say unions, but going down this road. Activision, on the other hand, continues to be Activision. Listen to this. This is just, they are so shitty. By the way, I have to address, capitalism is the best you got. Like it or not, no, it's the best we've got right now. It's not the best we've got forever. It's the best system that's ever worked. Yeah. But that's like saying that, you know, Ford makes the best car. There was a time when Ford made the best car, and now they don't. It's called progress. People can change. People can learn. Societies can grow. But anyway, listen to me. So, you know, the Raven software workers really kicked a lot of this off. They're accusing now Activision Blizzard of trying to union bust them because they want to start a union, at least specifically for testers, but it can apply to everyone at Raven, and they want to grow it out, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we know about all this. It's been happening for a while. But listen to some of the things they're being accused of. David Pellis, who is a senior director at Raven, which is a subsidiary of Activision, is in a Washington Post report, it's claimed that this is what he said. That Raven QA workers' job descriptions and day-to-day workflow has been presented in a dishonest case to prevent them from moving forward with unions. A representative from the Game Workers Alliance, who were trying to help unionize, called the process demoralizing. They said management held a meeting last week to, quote, thwart organized efforts. According to Washington Post, David Pellis, one of the senior directors, told staff at that time that a union could limit the amount of overtime worked, which might affect the quality of a game upon launch. Now, that's true. There is absolutely no doubt if companies are forced to treat their employees better, you're either going to have the cost of goods go up, or and that will be passed on to the consumer if the consumer can shoulder it, or you're going to have the cost stay the same, but you're going to have less quality products regarding bugs out in the world. If you're right about Horizon, which I haven't played yet, and it's buggy, but they didn't crunch, and that was part of it, I think that's a good trade-off. But not everybody does. But listen to this though. An Activision Blizzard rep told Polygon, "It is clear the union does not understand the game business," and that's true too. It's not one size fits all. Even back in mid '90s. When I was literally talking to people from the Actors Guild, from SAG, because we were kicking around the idea of having live actors in the background like Street Fighter, but instead of having them be animated, they were going to be live actors for the game Three Ninjas Kickback on the Sega Genesis. And so we were trying to figure out, did we need to go through SAG? Because Sony is a signatory of that union. They clearly didn't understand what the job fucking was. But here's what Activision says, though. They say, despite the union's heated rhetoric about the week's hearings, it is clear they don't understand the studio's business needs, day-to-day operations, nor the industry in general. We remain focused on the facts and in making sure our employees have access to a full range of information about the election and how it could impact them, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, it's hard to know. There's probably truth in both camps, but I'm not inclined to believe Activision for a number of reasons that you don't need me to go into. But listen to this. This is the one that really sticks in my craw. When the Workers Alliance and its lawyers are backing Game Workers Alliance, Activision has hired the law firm Reed Smith. This is old news, but it's succinct here and it's worth repeating. The lawyers at Reed Smith, present at the hearing, said on their Reed Smith profiles, they've collectively represented major companies across industries in discrimination and sexual harassment claims. So they represent the companies on sexual harassment, wage disputes, and other labor violation cases. On its website, Reed Smith boasts its experience in, quote, developing and sustaining robust union avoidance programs and support anti-union campaigns. It says they provide tips on spotting early signs of union organizing attempts and then beginning a counterattack. So, yeah, they're a union busting firm, Brian East. That's what they do. At least that's what one can take from these quotes here in the story. So, as good as it is that Epic's doing what they're doing, hopefully the industry follows Epic and doesn't follow Activision. We will see. Okay, let us move on to the main story of the day about Bloodborne. Let me take a quick little meditation break. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to sit and I'm going to zone for about 20 seconds, and then we will jump right into Bloodborne and the trans experience. I know you think it's clickbait. When you hear what I have to say, you'll go, I may not agree, Jaffe, and I don't even know if I agree. But it's an interesting theory worth discussing. It ain't clickbait. So if you're listening to the podcast, I'm going to sit here for about 10, 15, 20 seconds, close my eyes, follow my breath, recenter, and we will begin. This is not a bit. It's not shtick. It's how I do it. There you go. Look into meditation, kids. Save your goddamn life. Save your goddamn life. Okay. Let's talk about this first. Here, this is absolutely the Bloodborne story. But I want to give you guys a little bit of preamble first, but it's related. Okay. I want to talk very briefly. I was an English major, so deal with me. About theme when it comes to story. Okay, this is an article that talks about the value of theme. Author C.S. Larkin often calls theme the heart of a story. Think about it for a moment. What must theme accomplish in order to be the heart of a story? Maybe it presents a fundamental idea or moral lesson that the character learns as a result of the plot. Maybe it teaches the reader something as well. Even better, maybe it does both. They give an example, the author of this. Let's take Harry Potter, she says. During Harry's search to destroy the Horcruxes and ultimately Voldemort, the big bad, Harry visits other characters' homes as well as many substitute homes from his childhood. The idea of home has always been foreign to Harry, an orphan who struggled with his sense of belonging throughout the series. Yet here's what Harry realizes when he learns he must make the ultimate sacrifice to defeat Voldemort and defend his beloved wizardry school, Hogwarts. Here's the quote from the story. He wanted to be stopped, to be dragged back, to be sent home, but he was home. Hogwarts was the first and best home he had known. Discovering where he truly feels at home, Harry chooses to turn himself over to Voldemort in hopes of saving the people and place he holds dearest. His thoughts and actions here show readers the idea of home is worth defending at any cost. Okay, so this is just talking about the value of theme, okay? And I want to talk about this as it relates to other games first, because the thing is, if you have not sort of read fiction or watched movies or listened to music with more of a critical mind, your response to this topic is probably going to be surface. It's a game, Jaffe. It's just fun, Jaffe, blah, blah, blah. That's not what Miyazaki wanted, Jaffe. And the answer to that is, of course it's a game. Of course there's a surface level. There's a surface level to Jaws and to Star Wars and to Spider-Man. But to suggest those movies and comics and stories don't have themes that resonate at a subsurface level, at a subtext level, is moronic. Great art and art that has a long shelf life, a big part of that shelf life is because it provides rules for life. It's as much of a how-to manual as it is a movie, okay? So there was an article that was written a handful of years back called Metaphors in Games. Let me just give you an example of kind of what I mean, okay? And I don't mean, for example, that Miyamoto, it's talking about Super Mario Brothers. This is an article on medium.com. I'll put it in the chat if you're interested in such things. Super Mario's 1985. Conceptually, he's talking about collecting coins. Game one, he says the standout is the coin. Mario collects 100 coins, he gets an extra life. The money metaphor is common in many games. Game-wise, it's straightforward. It gives you instant gratification through the level, and it gives you a long-term objective of collecting as many of them as you can. There's absolutely no doubt. There's absolutely no doubt. But conceptually, on the other hand, it says it's a bit more interesting. It's rooted on the notion that accumulating wealth is inherently good and that you will get magically rewarded if you get enough money. When the player starts playing Super Mario Brothers, there's no indication that you will get something by collecting the coins. Hang on. Yeah.
Did you take my pen?
So Darkstorm says, sometimes a duck is just a duck. I understand. Let me keep going. Again, I'm telling you guys, look underneath the surface. This talks about Golden Axe, the old game Golden Axe, okay? Golden Axe, if you don't know, there's a segment in the game where a little elf comes out with a bag, and if you kick the elf and hurt the elf, he drops goodies. It's not an issue of reaching. PG says that's reaching. It is not an issue of reaching. It is irrelevant. Hello, Nikki T. it doesn't matter if the artist intended or not. Ideally, the artist intends things and we pick up on what they intended. But part of the reason art is powerful is that you are able to use it as a tool to learn more about yourself, okay? A lot of times, though, you would be surprised when the artist does intend it. I was talking about the golden axe where you kick the elf. The game has elves with rucksacks that can be attacked to steal potions and meat. It's really fun to boot them in the face, but how does this fit the hero narrative? The designers put the elves there and had no doubt the players would be able to figure out you can attack them for prizes. Why? My guess is that this was not about the hero's journey, but about power. So you see a defenseless elf, it is smaller than you, it's fine to bully the shit out of it. It fits the story, right? I mean, it's a good point. Okay, last one I'll tell you on this one. Actually, let's go to Mario. Let's go to this one. Let's go to one that I have a little bit more knowledge of, God of War. So this segment of God of War, which I directed and was the lead writer on, has Kratos where he's pushing a cage up the hill with a human sacrifice in it in order to kill him in advance in the game. Okay? Well, when I designed this, and what happens is when enemies spawn and they hit you, you let go of the cage, and because it's on a slope, the cage slides back to the bottom unless you're putting it in positions where little outcroppings of rock can stop it. Well, when I was designing this, I in my head, and I never went out of my way, and I never cared if anyone else picked up on it, but to me, it was a metaphor. It was a metaphor for two things. It was a metaphor for not giving up. Even when you're almost at the top, you might get knocked back down, but it's about continuing to try to move forward. And in that, it will allow you to access your goal and win your goal. And more importantly, it was a metaphor or a reflection of Kratos saying, humanity no longer matters to me. I'm willing to sacrifice humanity to get what I want. Okay, so again, it doesn't matter if it was intentional. Zaf says, or the developers just thought it was funny, talking about Golden Axe. Okay, but just take that. If the developers of Golden Axe just thought it was funny to kick on a little guy to get stuff from them, well, it is funny, but it's also reflecting a view of the world that it's funny to step on little people in order to get value from it. Okay, so if you don't feel that way, it wouldn't be funny to you. Okay, and I didn't know about that, Diego. Diego says there's an interesting discussion to be had on why Bloodborne clicks so much with queer people. I had no idea. I'd never heard that. But okay, well, we'll get to Bloodborne in just a second. I just want to show you a few more before we get to Bloodborne. The blue shell. Now, again, I am not saying the symbolism of the blue shell was anything other than a pure play mechanic. It could have been, it may not have been. I have talked to filmmakers. I remember at USC, I talked to Oliver Stone about metaphor in his films. And he was pretty much like, dude, no. He's like, I did that because of just total practical reasons, and he walked me through it. But then if you listen, I think it's Zack Snyder talking about colors and muted colors and various things in Justice League, there's meaning behind it, right? And so you got to be careful not to just be ignorant and just go, oh, it's just a game, it's just a movie, blah, blah, blah. No, these things are powerful tools that affect society in good and bad way. And I'm not saying change them. I'm just saying there's value in being aware. The blue shell, for example. Here's what I think the blue shell could absolutely represent. The blue shell is actually kind of a cynical take on things. The blue shell is basically saying if you want to win, it's actually not the best idea. The best racer, the best person, the hardest worker, the most skilled doesn't win all the time. It's the person who's skilled enough but is also able to play the game of politics or the game of backstabbing or whatever. There's no reason to lose in Mario Kart because someone has the blue shell. Now you could say, well, I have the horn, I can defend against it, whatever. But there is a metaphor at play here. There's a metaphor here which contradicts the one in Mario, which is the coin in Mario Kart is consistently ranked the worst item to get. You want to get rid of it all the good goddamn time. Why? What is that saying? I don't know. But let's get to Bloodborne now. Okay, so that's the world. That's the world we're living in. That's what we're talking about. So if it's too intellectual or pseudo intellectual for your mind, I don't begrudge you if this is the off pass of the freeway where you get off. Okay, it's not mental gymnastics. Again, this is what I have. This is the problem with this stuff is this is the problem with this stuff is that this, I mean, I'm telling you as a guy who has created decades worth of content, it's not mental gymnastics. Even if what is being talked about was not intentional, if it is picked up on by enough of the audience or even one person, it enriches the art. It allows us to understand the medium more. To act like it's anything under the surface is stupid, more than anything, just suggests maybe you're more of a mouth breather than you should be. And I'm not being a dick to you. I'm not being a dick to you. I'm saying that, there's value in thinking about things a little bit deeper than what you see. Do it with people. You think you think the people you see in your life, they tell you exactly who they are? Or do you have to watch who they are? And over time, you learn who they really are, regardless of what they say. It's symbolism, intentional or not. CR3D says, Jaffe, I've had people come up to me and tell me what my lyrics meant to them. It doesn't mean I actually intended it. Right. That is irrelevant. It's nice when they match up, but sometimes it doesn't matter. So if a lot of people look at Bloodborne, like this fella here, who blocked me, by the way, this guy you may know, I don't know what his real name is. He goes by Xavier. He's the guy who worked for Insomniac. This is getting to the Bloodborne part. He's the guy who worked for Insomniac, who got into a big fight with the creative director and the art director about Rivet and the new Ratchet and Clank. And I'll read you his quote. This is over on Reset, but he says they wanted Rivet to be more feminine, and he says no. The lead writer, the lead character, technical director, and me wanted to keep her as is. The argument was going on. He finally just was like, in essence, he was really frustrated. Go fuck yourself. You're wrong. And then he left the company. Okay. So that's who we're talking about. And I actually reached out to him because this was his theory and I thought it was really interesting. And I said, hey, he and I may have gone at it in the past on Twitter, but I was like, hey, we're talking about your theory today. Are you interested? I'd love to have you call into the show and talk about this. And he just blocked me. I'm like, really? But anyway, here's what he says. Let me get to Spaz. Spaz says, teachers teaching students why the author talks about a red door so often when the author just likes red doors. I don't know why. Maybe you need a teacher to articulate it better than I am articulating it. It's not about being right. It's not about being like, oh, because you guessed properly what the artist thought about red doors, you win. It's got nothing to do with that. It has to do with your willingness and interest in taking what life or art presents to you and saying, I'm going to look a little deeper to determine why it affects me in such a way, why it may have affected the artist in such a way, what the artist may have done unintentionally. You think I knew God of War was about divorce and family when I was writing it? No. I had no goddamn idea what that game was about. You can look back at all of those games I was making at that time. You can look at Twisted Metal 2012, God of War, and Twisted Metal Black. They're all about dysfunctional families. Every single fucking one of them. That was never me sitting down with Shuhei and Phil Harrison and Alan Becker and going, I want to make a game that's a metaphor for dysfunctional families. But if somebody would have said to me, dude, do you recognize this? I'd go, oh my God, I didn't even fucking know. Let me tell you something else. The one of the examples I love, there used to be that show called the Inside the Actor Studio or whatever. And the guy, I forget his name, Lipton, right, had Spielberg on. And you can't find this clip anymore. They went through and just got all this shit off YouTube. He's talking to Spielberg about Close Encounters, and he's talking to Spielberg about his family. I don't know if you've seen Close Encounters, but he says, you know, your mother was a pianist, a musician. Your father was a computer hardware creator. When the UFO lands in Close Encounters at the end, how does humanity communicate? And it's the humans use technology to communicate to the aliens through music. Okay, and Spielberg was just floored. He said, thank you for that. He says, I never knew that's what I was doing. But he came from a childhood of divorce. He was a child of divorce. And his parents, obviously, for a very long time, struggled to connect and not fight. And ultimately, that ended up in his movie. To act like that's not worth discussing is dumb, in my opinion, if you really love the medium. Cattleman says that's what's missing from games today, underlying themes. Underlying being the key word. I'm playing Cyberpunk right now, and, you know, think about it. The only way you know Cyberpunk is a game about the evils of capitalism is it tells you every 5 fucking minutes. That's where we're at with games. So all you guys out there and girls out there saying, oh, this is an artistic medium, and oh, this is meaningful, and it's the next great art form. You don't get to say that and then shit all over the idea that these games could be saying things intentionally or not that are not on the surface. That's just horse shit. It's absolutely horse shit. Okay, let's talk about Bloodborne now. All that's preamble to this guy, Xavier's Theory, which I just finished Bloodborne. I thought it was a great game, one of my favorite games. I don't think Miyazaki sat down and this was conscious, and maybe it wasn't even unconscious, but here's what he says. Someone said I was crazy, this is Xavier talking, for saying Bloodborne is basically crammed to the gills with trans allegory. And my dude, the entire game is about uncovering the eldritch truth and transcending the body you were born with. You literally fight the physical embodiment of menstruation in this game. This is not some sort of giant leap, he says. He continues. You have the option to turn into a completely different creature of your own volition. You fight fetus monsters and explore the nightmare of menses. If you don't know what menses is, or menses, that's basically the menstruation that a woman, and not just blood, but all kinds of fluids and different things that come out of her every month when she's not pregnant. You literally have an entire section called the nightmare of menses. The only way a game can be more focused on trans issues is if the game was literally called, this is a game about trans stuff. Now, again, I'm not arguing with you guys that this is exactly what Miyazaki wanted to do. I'm just saying it's interesting. It's an interesting way to think about a piece of art that a lot of people love. And Eon, I know you don't realize this. He says, this is the funniest shit ever. An Adversary 1 says, I think people are reading too far into things. I can't. Sure. That's where you'll end up. I can't help you. If you don't want to look deeper than the surface, fine. But that's what's happening. I'm not saying that's what's happening in this game, but it's an interesting theory. Magic Circle says, Xavier is entitled to his opinion, and it doesn't really matter for people who enjoy the experience playing the game. Yeah, it doesn't mean you're going to become a trans person. It just means here's a guy's theory that when he says it after finishing the game, I'm like, that's pretty interesting. I could see that. As a guy who is raising a trans son, I think Doctor Who could be looked at as a metaphor for trans people. I'm not saying the people who invented Doctor Who sat down and said, let's bury some trans allegory in this. But when you see the scene between, and if you don't know Doctor Who, the way they explain the way actors come in and out of the show, men and women now, is they regenerate, and it's still the Doctor, but an essence of who they were is no longer there. It's a different person, but it's still the same person. And so the second to last transition was Matt Smith transitioning into Peter Capaldi. And there's a just wonderful, heartbreaking scene where Matt Smith is on the phone in the past calling to the present to his companion, Clara. And Matt Smith's already transitioned in the present to the new Doctor Who old guy, Peter Capaldi. And Matt Smith calls her and says, I knew you would have trouble with this, but I want you to know that guy, that old guy you're looking at right now, I don't want to cry thinking about it. The old guy you're looking at right now, that's still me. I'm still your friend. You just have to see me. I just want you to see me inside. And I'm like, okay, did Stephen Moffat sit down and say, I'm going to write a trans allegory? I don't fucking know, and I don't fucking care. But it's powerful because it's powerful, and it's also powerful because it speaks to a sense of, I think, the longing that every human, but certainly you can see it more in the trans community because it's literal, feels when they look at the world and say, this is just me. It's just, this is who I am. I'm the same person. I'm a more real version of me than I was before you knew I was trans. I mean, to poo-poo that, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're just, you're kind of an asshole. To act like that's not powerful and that's not valuable to bring to the world. Truth Teller says Cyberpunk is about corporate activism, family and tribalism, a place where you feel accepted. Yeah. Spaz says there are multiple NPCs that give you their blood that you can use for healing. I always felt like it was period blood. I think it is. And when one gets pregnant, you can't get their blood anymore. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. Diego says, again, a great part of the Bloodborne community, at least on the internet, is queer trans folk. As a queer person, there's something about the game that feels inviting. Right, and let's say that was intentional. Let's say it wasn't. Who knows who really gives a fuck? But the fact that you can take that from the game is awesome. Sir Nick says, don't you think trans or gay people would have opinions, theories like this because they're so interested in it? Sure. You guys, some of you guys seem stuck on this idea that there's a right answer. It's not about that. It's about the medium being rich enough to support healing and growth and learning and different perspectives in different ways. Bloodborne is rich enough with that it allows people, let's say, in the trans community, in the gay community, like where did he go? Whoever. I apologize. I forgot your name. Diego. To read into that. How's that a bad thing? Okay. Let's move on to something totally unrelated, but still really fucking cool. Really fucking cool. You see this news story? Hundreds of rare sealed Nintendo and Sega games from the 16-bit era discovered in Nebraska storage. I want to read this as a closer to the Bloodborne topic. This is what Miyazaki intended and what people bring to it, which is part of why he doesn't explain the story. Right? We should be celebrating that. Who said it was bad? PG, a lot of people in the chat are like, dude, you're reaching. It's so stupid. It's so fucking stupid. And I'm like, it's not about being right. It's about the art being rich enough to have the conversation and it being a valid conversation to have. Okay? Hundreds of rare sealed Nintendo and Sega games discovered in Nebraska storage facility. This is IGN. I'll show you a video in a second, though. A video game reseller has discovered hundreds of you know what he's done. 80s and 90s games, hordes of SNES, Sega CD, Genesis, Saturn, 3DO games put into storage after a local game store closed down. in 94. That's when I started in this business. There's some games in here from me. They have remained untouched until now. Check this shit out. You can see the video over on the YouTube. I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'll just play you. They took the camera in here. And look at it. Shrink wrapped. Street Fighter 2's Zombies Ate My Fucking Neighbors in there. There is Eternal Champions. There is Dracula, which I was a fucking tester on when I started. It is just delightful. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to fucking tell you something. I'm going to tell you something. I mean, I am not a collector. I am a minimalist. Look at that. Castlevania Bloodlines. I am a minimalist. I like digital, blah, blah, blah. And I still have not, why has it stopped? I still have not changed from that. But I will tell you, like Rocky, what happened? Yeah. If Rocky says if he can change and I can change, we can all change. I can tell you, the more I have fallen in love with Bloodborne, the more I begin to understand why some of you in the chat, look at that shining in the darkness, not just for nostalgia. Oh my God, you're a wizard, Harry. I understand why you like your physical copies more and more. I still don't have a desire to own them. Ultimately, it's just stuff. But I understand how you could look at this and have a sense of Hook. I worked on Hook. That was the first game I ever tested. If you're listening to the stream, I'm showing a video of these guys in this warehouse. All of these, not all shrink wrap, but a lot of them are shrink wrap original unplayed games from the 90s. It's pretty amazing. This is worth, I think they assessed how much this is worth. There's Dracula. I worked on that game. I forget how much they assessed it is, but it's a shit ton of money. And I'll put the link in there if you want to watch it. Here you go right here. I think we are living in a simulation nomad, of course. Yeah, physical's not forever either. I know. I mean, I don't really care in the sense that I'm not going to run out and start buying things. I'm just saying I get it. I get the value that a physical object holds if it doesn't go too far, in my opinion. But I don't know. Zaf is talking to somebody in the chat talking about the prices of used games out of control. Yeah, but man, I mean, I remember being at Comic-Con before there was any market like this. But there was obviously a market like this for comics. And I was just like, man, I wonder if one day there will be a market for this. And it just kind of crept up on a lot of people, including me. Here's what I'll tell you, though. Seriously, no joke. By the time I was a teenager, and I still have all my old comics, I don't really collect them. But when I was a teenager, I remember, hearing a lot about, this Superman issue, this Spider-Man issue. So I would buy all these number ones, but I never anticipated I would have anything really valuable. I have some valuable things, but not a lot. But you guys now, you're seeing the beginning of this market in the last 10 years, 15 years. And you're seeing the death of this market being physical. So if you want to make an investment, there are dumber things you could do than be going out and buying physical games right now. Hell, Tommy Tallarico, you can still buy in television games or Amico games for a system that may not even ship. Those will be worth a lot of money one day. So if you're thinking about what should I invest in, start buying physical. Not because you believe in physical, but because it's an investment. Legends, thank you for the super chat. He says, Jaffe's over here cultivating and killing brain cells at once. I appreciate that, sir. Thank you so much. I wanted to read Mr. K. If we go back to this, we were talking about Bloodborne and all this. He says, nobody said it's not a valid conversation to have, Jaffe. They said they think you're mistaken. There is no right or wrong answer. When you're in college and you're an English major and you're writing, here's my theory about the Scarlet Letter. Here's what it said to me. The professor isn't going to sit there and say you get an A or you get an F because you chose poorly when telling me what the metaphor of the lights in the sky that Hester Prynne saw, the heroine of that story. It's more about going, did you read the book with a critical eye that allowed it to get into your soul deeper than just surface? And if you did that, here's your A. There's no right or wrong to it. It doesn't matter. And I think the person who said that's one of the reasons Miyazaki doesn't say what his games are about, story-wise, is for this very reason. Is that he wants them to be personal, which is probably one of the reasons Bloodborne has so much love for it. Why? But because it lets you imprint upon it so much of your own stuff. Okay. The copy of Chrono Trigger, you goddamn right. You goddamn right. That's impressive as shit. Let me see what else we got today. Hang on, fellas. I'll save that. I'm always saving those. I'm just going to do this one now because I'm tired of it being on my list. I think it's interesting, but what do you want from me? I can never elegantly slot it into the show. So here you go. Check it out. The Justice League are becoming dinosaurs. I know. What's this have to do with games? Nothing. But I thought it was cool. Here's a first look at Jurassic League, a comic where the Justice League heroes have all become dinosaurs. It's true. Batman's one. What are they called? This is coming out pretty soon. I don't know why, but they're dinosaurs and it's fucking cool. Here you go. Here's the Joker as a velociraptor. There's Batman. Superman's a brontosaurus because he's strong and big, but he's a gentle soul. Justice League Park. Let's see. They go into a lot of these, like what they are. So it's fun. Joker's crazy. It says he thought of Vertigo. The artist thought of Vertigo from Primal Rage. Wonder Woman is what did they say Wonder Woman is? Batman has no superpowers, but puts fear in the heart of criminals. So a carnivore dino seemed right. His name is Batsaur. He doesn't eat meat though. Okay. Superman is the pinnacle of goodness and strength. He only fights if there's no other option. I wanted a herbivore dino that looks harmless but is solid and strong. I don't know what Wonder Woman is, but there she is. She's Triceratops, I guess. Okay. The art is dope, says For Sizzle. It sure is. All right. Fellas and Filettis, that has been Gabbing Games for February the 20 goddamn first. I want you to think about that. We are rolling into spring, boys and girls. It's good news. It goes fast, but it's good news. I hope you're well. Mods, thank you. Super Chats, thank you. Members, thank you. I will be back on Wednesday with a full brand new episode at 5 o'clock at Gabbin' Games. In the meantime, I'll be game streaming tomorrow as well as putting up new videos. Remember, if you're interested, hit me up on Discord or hit me up on the Twitter regarding if you want me to play and record any of those demos on the Steam Next Festival. I'll do that. Let me go to chat real quick. I'll answer some questions. Miko says, have you played the new Horizon? No, it's really not on my radar. I hear it looks amazing. Hear it's wonderful. I'm not really that interested. I haven't gone back and played the first Horizon, and I've never played it. So I would be stunned if I play this one. I just don't have any interest for some reason. I'm looking for Eric's. Bacon Magma says, answer Eric's question. I don't see Eric's question. Jaffe, can you not pull the game streams? Because I never catch it live. I don't pull them for no reason. Usually I pull it because the music I kick it off with isn't just a YouTube saying, hey, you can't monetize the video. They literally, like I did a song last week with My Chemical Romance, and they said, yeah, Warner Brothers doesn't even allow that. They won't let you show your video. So I had to take it down, edit that out, recompile it, or reprocess it, put it back up. So I'm looking for Eric's question, Eric Lennon. Okay. They made Thor a frog. I remember that too. I don't know if that was Thor or just a different, was it actually Thor? Was it actually a short? Eric, repost your thing, man. I don't see it. I don't see it. But if you want me to answer it, I'm happy to. I just don't see where it is. Here it is. Now he's saying it's too deep for me. No, I literally don't see it. Kyler says, Jaffe, do you think Sony's making a first-person shooter that is free to play? Well, we know they're making at least one first-person shooter from Guerrilla. I don't know. And we know they're getting into service games. I think they said they've got 10 of them in production. One of them being a first-person shooter sounds like it makes a lot of sense to me. If you put it back up, it's cool. I just know sometimes with the game... Oh, the game streams I pull. The game streams I will pull sometimes. That's only because they have licensed music throughout the whole thing. So when I'm playing Bloodborne, for example, I'm just playing 80s rock because I like grinding and playing 80s rock and talking to the chat. I can't leave that up. But other ones I do leave up. Legend says, Jaffe, are you recording gameplays off stream? No, but I will. I should. I know people want me to. Okay, well, I don't see Eric's chat, so there you go. All right, fellas, I'm out. Can you try not to use licensed music tomorrow? Yeah, when I play, like, I'm going to play Martha's Dead this week on stream. I'm going to play, what's it called? Elden Ring. That's going to be just the soundtrack they ship with. Oh, Bacon says Eric's chat is being censored. So rephrase it. What would Bloodborne have to do to surpass the original Afro? Oh, man, I don't know. I mean, I don't know, you know. I couldn't tell you. I don't want to think about that. I already had that job for 20 plus years. I'm good. That's a hard one. I want to give you a real solid, good, respectful answer, and I don't have it right now. So hit me up. Again, I'll spend some time thinking about it. All right, fellas, that's it. I'll see you guys next time or later on or what have you. All right, good night. Be well. See you soon. Bye, y'all.